What's up, nerds and geeks? My name is OMGWTFLOF Welcome back to more Total Extreme Wrestling 2016, where you're playing as the WWF in the year 2001, booking the Invasion angle, and tonight we'll be running Monday Night Raw. Once again, a little bit of a late upload, but I did manage to get Monday Night Raw booked in full in one day, which honestly isn't that impressive, so let's not brag too much. But also to a part where I didn't rush. I got everything I actually wanted on. I knew what I wanted to do, so I guess that's what happens when you spend majority of your workday booking it in your head when you have the downtime. But I do that anyway. Either way, though, let us go ahead and start this show. Nothing really else to talk about, to be completely honest. We have a couple pre-show bouts. In our first pre-show match, we have a bout that had subpar wrestling and little heat to it. Rob Van Dam going over the returning X-Pac in officially his first match back. And about that, whatever, I already said that. 10 minutes, 28 seconds, he beat him with the Frog Splash. Solid C rating here with the 60. Not too bad for the guys here. X-Pac with a 50. RVD with a 62, so RVD looking good out there. The Battle of the Potheads tonight, nerds and geeks. I purposely put these two together since they were the two that got sent home last week. By the way, still in Canada. This week we're in Alberta. It's going to stay. No worker improvements, unfortunately, as we move on to... Fucking X-Pac, dude. Oh, thank you, X-Pac. You're a son of a bitch. We then go to a 72 B- rating here, and a pre-show bout that had decent wrestling, but not much weighing heat. Team Extreme, the WWF Women's Champion, Lita, and the Hardy Boys, going over the right two censors, Val Venus, Goodfather, and Ivory, in 10 minutes, 29 seconds when Ivory goes over Lita by pinfall. Don't know what she used. Twist of Fate, who knows? Interesting enough, I don't know if we knew this already, Ivory and Steven Richards with pretty good chemistry. So, Lita with a 65. Matt and Jeff with the 79s. What happened, boys? Ivory with a 60, and the Goodfather with a 52. Val Venus with a 55. Wow, the women outperformed both of you guys. And honestly, kept on par with the Hardys tonight, too. Ivory's also improving in performance. We then move on to our main event of the pre-show, which gets a solid B rating with an 80 here. And about that had decent wrestling, but not much weight and heat. Raven going over Eddie Guerrero in 9 minutes, 31 seconds with the pile driver. Okay, still haven't changed that. Eddie, of course, still teasing that face turn. Raven with the 70, Eddie with the 72. There's only 2 points between the two of them. No, but before we move on to the start of the show, I am going to take a drink. Little cotton mouth here. And let us move to the start of the show, which gets us a 100 A-star rating here, nerds and geeks. Video package, of course, airing for showing what happened last week with the whole War Games being confirmed, and then Shane on Nitro upping the ante by issuing that challenge to his father, saying, why don't we put all the titles on the line? And that's when Raw opens up with the WWF chairman, Vince McMahon, making his way down to the ring. And of course, the announcers, JR King, they're talking up Shane's challenge. Once in the ring, Vince takes the mic. I take a drink because, oh boy, here we go. Alright, stop the music. We all know why I'm out here. Everyone's been talking about it no matter where I go. Everyone's been asking me, well, Mr. McMahon, did you hear about your son's challenge? Are you gonna accept? Now, Shano, first of all, I had no idea I raised you to be a coward. Waiting to up the ante when you know I'm nowhere around to answer it. But your timing has allowed me some time to think I have been known to be quick to agree to any challenge just to prove my dominance. But it allowed me to think, which is why at Survivor Series it not only will be Team WWF versus Team WCW inside War Games, but it will all be on the line. It'll all be an all-out war, Shane, 'cause you're on. I accept your challenge to put all the titles on the line. Which is why we have to pull up our notepad. which is why tonight on Raw, we will decide the lucky superstar who will challenge Booker T for the WCW Championship. Now, as for who that will be, you'll just have to wait and find out, since myself and Commissioner Foley haven't really had quite the time to decide that yet. That's when Kurt Angle's music hits, and out comes the Olympic gold medalist, and he comes down to the ring with a mic in hand. He says, Mr. McMahon, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't help but hear that you need a number one contender for the WCW World Championship, and I think I'm your guy. Not only do we both want to put WCW to rest once and for all, but I've been talking about it for a while. After they embarrassed me and made a fool out of me on live television, I want my revenge. And what's a better dish of revenge than taking WCW's biggest prize? Not to mention, I've already got Book's number. Think about it, Mr. McMahon. I promise you that at Survivor Series, I can and will beat Booker T for the WCW World title. Vince McMahon starts to think about it a little bit before Chris Jericho's music hits, and out comes the Ayatollah of Rock and Rolla, who joins them in the ring, and he says, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Don't let this Olympic gold jackass fool you, Mr. McMahon. You think you're the right guy to take on Book? Please. If anyone should be challenging for the WCW title at Survivor Series, it's yours truly, baby." Kurt then goes, "You know what, Jericho? I know I'm the right guy for the job. But do you honestly think you're the right guy for the job? It's not exactly like you ever walked away with the title during your run over in WCW. Plus, didn't you just lose to DDP at No Mercy? I, on the other hand, won my match against Chuck Palumbo." And then Jericho and Angle start going back and forth, of course, Jericho maybe pointing it out that, yeah, you beat Chuck Palumbo, big deal. I took on DDP, back and forth. They're just going until Vince McMahon finally shuts them up and he says, "Well, you know what? I didn't know who I was going to give the title shot to before, but now I do. Because in tonight's main event, it'll be Kurt Angle battling Chris Jericho, with the winner going on to face Booker T for the WCW Championship at Survivor Series." And then that confirms our main event of the night, which will be for the WCW, or the number one contendership for the WCW title, between Kurt Angle and Chris Jericho to decide who will face him at Survivor Series. We had a couple locker room incidents. Of course, The Undertaker continuing to pass along stuff to his protege. This time he passed along tips on selling to Jindrak. And then Deborah, the wife of Stone Cold Steve Austin, has heat with the locker room for her selfish behavior. We gave her a stern warning, but of course, she didn't care. Of course, Vince enjoyed his freedom going off the script. It did get the show off to a strong start, which, duh. Jericho looked good as well. Angle, he was there. Spoiled that a little bit, didn't I? And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, ignore it. We then just go on to, the next segment, pretty much the announcers putting over, "Well, tonight we now know our main event, blah, blah, blah," Jericho versus Angle. We then go to the opening match of the night, which, to my surprise, gets a B-. Good for you, Just Incredible. 75 B- here. Thought that had decent wrestling, but not much weight and heat. Canada's son, Edge, going over Just Incredible with the spear in 6 minutes, 28 seconds. Edge with the 79, Credible with the 47. Justin's also improving in flying, so you have that for you. We then move on to a solid B rating here with a 78. And Edge, he grabs the mic and he says, "Christian, I know you're back there, so get your ass out here because I've got something I want to say to you." You know what? Scratch that. I won't lie. Get your ass out here because I don't want to talk. I want to fight. And I may have to wait until Survivor Series to get my United States Championship back, but that don't mean I gotta wait to kick your ass. But instead of Christian coming out comes Chuck Palumbo and Stacy Keibler, and Stacy takes the mic and she says, "You know, Edge, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, even though I really don't, but your event match against your little brother for the U.S. title has not only been postponed, but will soon be canceled. Because just in case you didn't hear the good news, your boss accepted my boss's challenge. And all the titles from each company will be defended against an opposing roster member from of course, from the current champion." I don't know. Blah, 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 blah. "And since your brother is a WWF competitor, he must defend against someone from WCW. And that someone has confirmed to be my guy, Chuck Palumbo." And I ran out of space to write here, and I didn't really feel like going on because I got pretty much what I wanted to say. So I'd imagine, She says, my guy Chuck Palumbo, and then says something snarky like, toodaloo, or blah, 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 something stupid like that before her and Chuck leave. And JR and King are like, what? Edge has been robbed, and Edge is just kind of standing there shocked pretty much. Edge came across well. Stacy unfortunately performed poorly, but what can you do? Not a bad segment, though, overall. As we then move on to a 72 B-, and Michael Cole, he's backstage with the WCW United States Champion. Of course, he says, ladies and gentlemen, my guest at this time is the WCW United States Champion, Christian. Now, Christian, I'm sure you just saw the exchange between Edge and Chuck Palumbo, but just in case you didn't, your brother Edge was calling you out for a face-off in the ring until WCW's Stacy Keibler and Chuck Palumbo came out and pointed out that now that every champion is required to defend their title against someone from the opposing roster, that instead of you facing Edge, you'll be facing Chuck Palumbo instead at Survivor Series for the United States Championship. And then Christian says, well, yeah, but that's only if I was a WWF superstar. You see, I hold a WCW title, and I'd be lying if I said I haven't had Shane McMahon approach me and offer me a WCW contract. So who knows? Maybe I'll sign with WCW, and then after I do that, I won't have to worry about Stacy and Chuck anymore, and I can just go back to focusing on beating and proving to everyone once and for all that Christian is and always was better than Edge. And he just walks off, so Christian dropping a bombshell here. He pretty much made Stacy's whole remark there null and void for the time being, because apparently Christian's had a contract offer from WCW since winning the United States Championship, and he might take it just to avoid Palumbo's challenge all in all. Who knows? We then move to a backstage segment once again with a solid A rating this time. Good on you guys with a 92. Rhino was also based on entertainment here as well, so I'm impressed. We have the new WWF Tag Team Champions, Rhino and Stone Cold. They just arrived to the arena. Rhino, of course, he throws his title over his shoulder. He's got a big smile on his face, and he says, "Oh man, boss, does it feel good to be a champion, especially with you? I mean, I just want to thank you for everything, boss." Austin then says, "Don't go and get soft on me now, kid. You see, you and I are champions now. That means we got a big target on our back. I know you've been a champion before, but you've never been a champion with Stone Cold. And trust old Stone Cold when he says that people are going to be gunning for us. Just so they can say that not only are they the new tag champs, but they beat Stone Cold and his protege for the belts. So I'm going to need you to evolve to a new level, some sort of super Rhino. You think you can do that, kid?" And then Rhino, he goes, "Don't worry, boss. I worked my ass off to get here, and there ain't no way in hell I'm taking my eyes off the prize now." And then Austin says, "That boy, come on, kid. We got people to talk to." And they walk off. Austin was the real star, and the new champs are here. Last week we saw Austin and Rhino win the vacated WWF championships. Of course, they had to be vacated after, well, I guess I can say it, because before we didn't know who it was, but we found out on Nitro that apparently it was Scott and Rick Steiner. They attacked Test and Albert, the WWF Tag Team Champions, backstage after No Mercy, and unfortunately, Test got injured, air quotations, drugs. But, all in all, it ended up bad for TNA because they had to forfeit the championships, but it worked out for Austin and Rhino because they beat the Hardys and Power Plant last week to win those titles. We then go to a 70C plus because speaking of Test and Albert and Trish Stratus are making their way down to the ring. And then we come back from a commercial break, which gets a 86B plus rating. TNA's music hits, and Albert alongside Trish Stratus, they make their way down to the ring, make a beeline immediately, don't even care. And Albert takes the mic, he asks for a mic and takes it, and he says, "Last week, I revealed the heartbreaking news that after No Mercy went off the air, my partner Tess and I were attacked in a parking lot. Now, fortunately for me, I went unscathed. But unfortunately for my partner Tess, he was taken out beyond the 30-day limit that we're required to defend our tag titles. And it took everything out of me to hand those belts over. My first title reign over, and we didn't even lose the titles. So imagine my shock when I hear over on Nitro, WCW's Tag Team Champions Scott and Rick Steiner admitting to attacking Test and I, bragging and laughing about taking my partner out and ending our reign early. Well, Steiners, you didn't get the job done because I'm still standing, and I'm not leaving until I get both your asses." A few minutes pass until finally the Steiner Brothers music hits, and out they come. And once again, I have to open up our notepad over here, our handy-dandy notepad. And Scott says, "You got a death wish or something, kid? Consider yourself blessed that you walked out from an attack by us. But you know what, Rick? Who are we to deny this young upstart kid a chance to show his skill against the legend? So why don't you step in that ring and teach him a lesson?" And then Rick begins to rush towards the ring while Albert just kind of dares him to get in the ring. And we have an impromptu match between Albert and Rick Steiner as Scott Steiner joins commentary for this match. We then move on to the match, which gets a 75 B-. It's not too bad. It's about what I was expecting, although I was kind of hoping for a solid B here, but it's Rick Steiner and Albert. But we have a decent match here with Albert going over Rick Steiner in 8 minutes 10 seconds with a flying leg drop, bringing out the big moves here today. It had a lack of selling, which is unfortunate, but Albert with the 73 and Rick Steiner with the 70, so he was the better of the two here tonight. Scott Steiner was on commentary as well, as I mentioned before. This was a wild brawl match as well, so we can look here for a second and see what really penalized it. Inconsistency, I don't really know what that means. Trying to go all out. Maybe I shouldn't have made them do that, but other than that, not much. We then go to a A-star segment here. Hell yes, 97 rating here. Albert, of course, is celebrating a huge upset over Rick Steiner, and that's when he's jumped from behind by Scott Steiner, who then helps his brother up. And then, of course, Rick joins in, and both the Steiner brothers are now beating down on Albert, looking to take him out just like they did to Tess before. But that's when the Brothers of Destruction's music hits, and out comes the WWF team captain, The Undertaker, alongside Kane, who come to Albert's aid, and they begin to trade blows with the Steiner brothers before sending them out of the ring and backpedaling out while they help Albert up and then raise his arms in victory and shake his hands, of course. And now, everyone, JR, King, you, me, everybody is wondering, does that mean Albert is a part of Team WWF? Who knows? Nothing's been confirmed quite yet here. Rick Steiner performed poorly, which is unfortunate here, but Taker and Kane came across well. As we then move on to our next segment here, an 83 B+, we're back from a commercial break, and the new WWF Tag Team Champions, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Rhino, making their way down to the ring. Once in the ring, Austin takes the mic and he says, "Now last Monday will forever be remembered throughout the history of the WWF as a historical moment, because last week marked the first official turning point for you, Rhino. Last week you stepped out of my shadow and stepped up next to me, because not only are you my protege and I'm your mentor, but now you and I are partners. And there ain't a damn team out there who could take these belts off our waist. But speaking of other teams, I heard the newest deal between the damn McMahons, and glad to see that they still don't give a damn and have no problem gambling with other people's careers, but that's fine. I just feel sorry for the poor sons of bitches over on WCW who are going to step up and face us." That's when Lord Steven Regal's music hits, and out he comes alongside Power Plant, and he says, "Now, pardon my interruption, Steve, but Steve, you and I go way back. In fact, you and I just so happen to have a great friendship outside of the business." And we open up our notepad, our handy-dandy notepad for the last time, and Regal continues to say, "Which is why I thought it'd be fun to pit you and your protege up against WCW's Power Plant, two young men I have taken under my wing as well. A little battle between friends to see who's the better trainer. Plus, I don't believe you pinned Mr. Stasiak or Mr. Jindrak last week, so, what do you say, Steve?" And then Austin's all, well, But before he can get off what he's going to say, that's when Canyon and Hugh Morris's music hits, and out they come. And then Canyon says, "Now hold on for just one moment. No way in hell are we going to just stand by and let you steal another tag title shot. You two lost last week, and if anyone's getting a shot at Austin and Rhino, it's us." And then Regal and Canyon begin to argue back and forth, pretty much stating their cases, and then Austin finally interrupts him and he says, "All right, shut the hell up, both of you. Rhino and I honestly don't give a damn who we face at Survivor Series because it won't change the end result. So if you two want to fight it out, then be our guest, because we'll gladly take on the poor sucker after." And once again, we have yet, I guess, another impromptu match for the #1 contendership for the WCW Tag Team Championships. No, wrong titles. WWF Tag Team titles. That's what I meant to say. As it'll be either Canyon and Moore's or Power Plant. But before we can get on to that, Austin looking excellent. Stasiak performed, and so did Hugh Morris. He performed poorly, apparently. But Hugh Morris is improving in acting and also showing more charisma. And so is Shawn Stasiak. He's improving in acting. So they performed poorly, but they made the best of the night. We then move on to our #1 contendership, which gets a solid B rating with a 79 here, and about that had decent wrestling, but not much weighing heat. Canyon and Hugh Morris go over Power Plant in 9 minutes, 52 seconds, when Canyon goes over Shawn Stasiak with the flatliner, and that confirms in a match for Survivor Series, and I believe, yep, it is in fact our first match we're going to confirm in, as the WWF Tag Team Championships will be on the line, as mentor and protege Stone Cold Steve Austin and Rhino battle the unlikely friendship between Canyon and Hugh Morris. So let's go ahead and book that in. WWF Tag Team Championship. Stone Cold Steve Austin and Rhino. Of course, they are the champions, and they represent the WWF. Actually, no, I'm wrong. They do not represent the WWF. They represent themselves. They have made that clear. But they are the WWF champion, WWF Tag Team champion, so they're still going to have to defend the titles against a WCW guy. Because they also have contracts, technically. So first match officially booked in there. I mean, technically War Games, but we don't know the full roster yet, so we can't really go ahead and book that in. Regal did some good work ringside. Stasiak was really off his game, but he is getting better at his gimmick, so you're giving me mixed signals here, Stasiak. You're doing like bad in your segments, but you're making improvements, so it's weird. Stasiak with the 58, Jindrak with the 66, Hugh Morris with the 66, and Canyon with the 74. Shawn Stasiak's also improving in performance. See what I mean? You never know with this guy. We then move on to the next segment, which gets an 87 B+ here. The match is over. Canyon and Morris, they're celebrating their victory, and that's when they are jumped from behind by the WWF Tag Team Champions, Stone Cold and Rhino, as they beat down before, of course, Rhino hits Morris with the gore, and Austin takes Canyon down with the stunner before standing over to them, holding up the titles, and posing over them pretty much. Austin looked excellent. Hugh Morris underperformed, but it gained heat for the feud here. We then move on to a 100 A-star rating. We're back from a commercial break. The Rock's music hits. Out comes the WWF champion. He does his whole spiel, posing for the crowd. Once in the ring, he takes the mic and he says, "Finally, The Rock has come back to Alberta, Canada. Now, The Rock might have missed you last week, but you knew The Rock wouldn't let you down a second week in a row. But boy, did The Rock miss quite a week last week. First, The Rock comes back to find out that WWF and WCW will go to war inside War Games over either a chance to be inside the Rumble and maybe invade WrestleMania, or to end this war once and for all. But then Shane O'Mac over on Nitro decided to up the ante by offering up the titles up for grabs against an opposing member of each roster. And my boss agreed. So at Survivor Series, we faced the very real possibility of The Undertaker leading the team of Team WWF on to victory, but The Rock losing the WWF Championship and quite possibly literally losing the WWF Championship. But there ain't no way in hell that The Rock is letting that happen, because you listen to me, Shane McMahon. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who you pick over on WCW, the end result will be the same. The 1, 2, 3, or the man's shoulders, or the man tapping on the mat. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, that ring announcer will once again be chanting, or announcing, winner and still your WWF champion, The Rock, pretty much. So just a pretty generic promo by The Rock. His storyline hasn't started yet, so I don't have much for him. That'll start over on Nitro this week. But other than that, Rock sending a message over to Team WC or anybody on WCW, whoever it tends to be. It doesn't matter who it is. I'm gonna beat your ass pretty much. And gets us a easy A-star here. Of course, he was off script. He always does well. Real star. Gotta love The Rock. Got to love The Rock. We then do a 75 B- here. Quick little segment just showing Shane McMahon arriving to Raw. We didn't even know he was going to be here, but the owner of WCW is here tonight. We move on to our main event of the night, and before this, Shane McMahon joined the commentary table, so he has joined JR and King, as we can see right here. And about that had superb wrestling and great heat. Kurt Angle goes over Chris Jericho in 12 minutes 37 seconds by making Jericho tap out with the ankle lock, so it was a decisive victory here as well. And that goes ahead and confirms in quite a, or not quite, what the hell am I talking about? Yet another match here on Survivor Series, this time the WCW World Championship, as Kurt Angle will battle Booker T for the WCW title. It's a WCW World Championship. Kurt Angle representing the WWF, battling Booker T representing WCW, and of course is the champion. There we go. So 2 matches booked in already tonight. Angle with an 88, Jericho with a 91. 83 B+, not too bad, guys, as we move on to the next segment, which gets a 90 A-star rating, or excuse me, solid A rating, not A-star, to end off the show, as Booker T, who we didn't also know was here, comes running through the crowd and goes to jump Kurt Angle, turns him around, and begins to, hit some lefts on him, or, lefts and rights, whatever, trading some blows with him. Kurt eventually gets the upper hand, and clotheslines him out of the ring, or maybe goes for like an ankle lock or something when he has him all locked in it, and Shane McMahon is, reaching for him and pulls Booker T out as Kurt just stands tall and holds the WCW championship over his head while, Booker and Shane just kind of look over and, Angle looking good to end off the show pretty much. As you can clearly see here, it says Kurt Angle looked good. And Booker T came across well, so no complaints there as we end off the show. Get another A rating here with a 93 and increasing our popularity in 18 regions. Not too shabby here. Got quite a lot of matches booked in. Well, only 2 matches, but either way, I really liked how that show came along, if I'm going to be honest with you. And it's getting fantastic reviews. Apparently ECCW is growing. Good for them. What they got on their roster? Why are they growing so much? Kill Switch. They got Kill Switch. What I should have known. Kill Switch is a star in the making. I mean, look at this guy. Ooh, El Mexicano raring to go. And Cena winning an award here. So Scott Steiner says, Credible doesn't connect with the fans. We should probably write the kid off. Thank you for that. And here we go. Thank you once again, X-Pac, for throwing a loop in everything. So, X-Pac wrestled drunk last night, and, yeah, it says he just wrestled drunk. So once again, that means we're going to have to send him to rehab. And, what the fuck? I mean, I don't want to take no action, but I don't want to send them to rehab again, and that'd be like 6 months, so fine. Which sucks, because I had plans for X-Pac. I did. And now he's freaking gone again, because he's a freaking drunkie. And he sucks. Thanks a lot, X-Pac. Now I gotta rethink literally everything. One of my biggest angles I gotta rethink. You kinda suck. Just want you to know that. 7 months. Holy shit, dude. I think he's gonna miss Mania. You suck, dude. X sucks. Let's check out some storylines before we end this off. Booker and Angle starting off good here. Edge and Christian still looking pretty good. Stone Cold in this, we might as well just change it. We know who it is now. Sometimes I'm suspicious. Sometimes I totally forget to be. Now, how the hell do you spell Hugh Morris's name all the time? I freaking forget all the time. Sometimes I feel it's two R, sometimes I feel it's two S's. And there you go. It looks pretty good there. Thanks a lot to X-Pac for ruining everything, but other than that, nerds and geeks, I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, do me a favor, leave me a comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, my name is OMG, WTF, LOL, FTWBRB, and I'll see you nerds and geeks in the next episode. So, for Thursday Night Nitro. So until then, have a good one.